the Pledge of Allegiance. And will, Mr. Henson, will you please do the Pledge of Allegiance for us? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. All right. Next option we have is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to that business as it listed?
There is.
Okay. So we will move on to governance actions. The first action that we have is Knowledge Academies, and I will turn that to Dr. Battle.
Thank you so much, Ms. Elrod. I would like to invite our director, Sharika Roby Grant, to the podium to provide you an update around this agenda item.
Good afternoon, board members. The Knowledge Academies contract, KA at the Crossings, was tabled for review today, and it is to discuss the consolidation of KA at the Crossings from a 5-8 middle school to a 512 grade span with an enrollment cap of 1,112 students.
What's going? I'm sorry, go ahead, if you have a whole presentation.
Oh.
No,
This
is
is
that
not.
about Knowledge Academy or not? I was like, can I make a motion? Oh, so sorry. Yes, you may make a motion.
Okay, I move to request Metro Legal to appeal this decision.
Second.
Okay, seeing that we have a motion and a second, take a vote on that.
Discussion.
So sorry, thank you. I appreciate your change. Do we have any discussion on this motion?
Nothing, I'm just saying this is how it goes.
Oh, okay. Yes, John?
I would say, I mean, based on the legal advice that I heard in the executive session, like, I don't want to prolong the discussion with a vote that we really can't control. And so, like, listening to both, I think it's important that we hold our space, but also important that we just don't waste time going down the legal route if it's not going to benefit us in the long run.
Okay, 1 second. Dr. Gentry, then Ms. Bush.
Thank you, John. Mr. Little, I apologize. And so I agree. I mean, we just came out of an executive session. It wasn't the advice. And I think put all that aside, we understand if we take the appeals route, we've got students that we've got to figure out what to do with. We've got schools that we've got to figure out what to do with. And I don't know that it's the most administratively appropriate place. But even if I'm wrong about all that and didn't hear it well because y'all did a lot of talking, the advice was it's probably not the best route for us to go at this point.
Ms. Bush and then Ms. Masters.
Yeah, and I agree the same way. After we just got finished meeting with council, we just need to really move forward and not go through any litigation that I don't think is going to be beneficial. We'll be wasting a lot of money, Metro money, and I just think we need to be moving forward on behalf of the students. And I agree with both of my colleagues of what they just said. So I just wanted to piggyback off of that.
Ms. Masters?
Thank you. Just to answer to both of those, all of these children do have a place, regardless of if we appeal. So we're not displacing children, according to what I understood from the meeting just now. And then my second is a clarifying question that Dr. Battle may know the answer to. When it comes to doing an appeal like this in our Metro legal team, since we don't hire external counsel for that, is there any specific additional cost involved with our team following up on something like this?
Thank you for your question, Ms. Masters. I'll actually kick that over to Justin Marsh.
We do have litigators with our office who will handle it. There are filing fees, associated fees, if any costs are needed, transcripts, any sort of. So there are fees outside of just pure attorney hours. But
But not additional attorney hours, not additional billing from attorneys?
Not if our office were to handle it.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be sure because I certainly wouldn't have seconded the motion had I thought it was going to displace children from their schools. And so with that knowledge, I just reinforce the fact that I seconded the motion because I feel it's important that, we have standards we have to uphold, and that applies to all of the different entities in the state of Tennessee dealing with education.
Okay, be no further discussion. We will call this to a vote.
Hear the motion again?
Will you please repeat the motion, Ms. Tyler?
I move to request Metro Legal to appeal this decision.
Okay. If you vote in the affirmative to deny, or excuse
This
me,
is not a
to
deny.
appeal.
This is asking Metro Legal to appeal.
To appeal, I apologize. If you vote to appeal, please raise your hand. All right. If you vote otherwise, please raise your hand.
Vote down the motion.
Just for clarification, we would need a new motion and a new second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Got it.
Teamwork.
My apologies.
Motion fails.
So the motion fails. Do we have a new motion?
I move that we,
Bring legal up to get it or restate.
what would be this motion then? It would be to adopt the recommendation of the,
I think functionally it would be to approve the consolidation, the amended KA Crossings contract, charter agreement.
okay. So I move that we approve the amended Knowledge Charter application. Is that right?
Knowledge Academy at the Crossings.
Knowledge Academy at the
Charter agreement.
Crossings.
I'll second.
We have a motion on the table. All those that are in approval,
Any discussion?
or excuse me, is there any discussion, of course? No? Say no
I'll
discussion.
just,
Oh, you have
I'd
a
like to
discussion.
just say
Thank you.
I'm disappointed about how messy this is. I feel like
That's my
we
fault,
are
straight up.
at the mercy of sloppiness on behalf of various entities here, and getting the bad rap for other people's sloppiness. And so hoping folks can get it together going forward.
Dr. Gentry?
For the 10,000th time, this process is broken. The whole process is broken. And so whether an appeal would probably do nothing more than raise the issue, I think we still have the responsibility to raise the issue. And I've been saying this for years. We have to have a more concerted effort around revisiting the charter application, approval, denial, revocation, all of those processes. If this is truly about what the documents, the processes around this whole charter business says it's about. Because right now, everything that we do, if we're making decisions based on enrollment needs and we don't have those enrollment needs and we don't have a capacity problem, we get overruled. We have an issue around the ability to deliver some quality education, we get overruled. And I've said this also before. It's not about whether a charter is doing what we're doing, the way we're doing it. It's about them doing it better, doing something different, bringing something innovative. That is the whole mantra around this charter initiative and this charter movement. And so unless you're bringing something that is so unique and it is so proven that's going to give us different results, then I don't get the win. I don't get the win. You're just creating an administrative burden. You're creating a financial burden. You're creating a marketing problem. You're creating a goodwill issue, creating more problems for us than you are benefiting the system as a whole.
Don, or Mr. Little, excuse me.
Yeah, and I would say, not even trying to be funny, I think it'd be very helpful after sitting in the executive session to get some type of, I don't know, National School of Law partnership, because a lot of this was very confusing. It seems like, you know, as a board member, we just had to be coached through making a motion because we're so confused. And so I think in the near future, like, I guess Sharon has said it a lot of times, like, when will be the time that we really take a look at the process, whether it's, I guess it has to be on the state level, but put some kind of collective plan together, because I think a lot of us, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us are confused. And take your advice from Metro Legal, who works day and night to figure these things out. Before a parent, former educator, this stuff it kind of goes over your head.
I will add to the discussion. Part of the reason why I voted to not approve it, but to go with the other motion, was that it is quite messy currently, as there's no clear definitions of what we are to do within the current statute and law. It is all based upon the recommendations of the Charter Commission. The Charter Commission can make their own decisions and rules, which of course puts us at a disadvantage, which is why it is difficult for us to appeal those things, as we are not in the decision-making seats as we are intended to be as elected officials. So my concern is of course, that our power as elected officials is being taken, and that the decision makers are not the people that are supposed to be in charge of our school system, but instead an unelected, unregulated commission that creates their own regulations that can be bent to whatever their reasoning may be. That makes this specific situation quite difficult because it is so unique. So I appreciate our executive session and the explanation that we had. It was obviously quite needed by many of our colleagues, including myself, and the ongoing education that we've had in this specific situation. Is there any additional discussion to be had? Okay. Ms. Pupa Walker, will you please restate your motion?
I move that we approve the consolidation of Knowledge Academy at the Crossings.
Okay.
A second.
All right. Please vote in the affirmative if you want to approve to amend KA at the Crossings now by raise of hand.
Say it again. What did you say?
You're voting to approve.
You're voting to
Approve. Okay, I heard you say amend. Okay, so approve.
Okay. So moves. It's passed. So we had 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Then, do we need to look at the?
Point of order, do we need to take the negative and abstention votes as well?
We still need to take those as well? I apologize. All right, if you vote in the the opposite, the abstention, I apologize.
If you oppose, raise your hand.
If you oppose, please raise your hand. I apologize, guys.
It's Monday.
No, you're good. It's fine, we're getting it in.
Abstain.
And any abstentions?
We're getting it.
I apologize. I did not take enough ibuprofen for my headache. I apologize, everyone. Okay. Can we see the agenda for the next option?
What's the next one? Tennessee.
Good evening. All right, next on the agenda, we have the amended charter school application.
Thank you, Ms. Elrod. Once again, I will kick it over to Sharika Roby-Grant to lead us through this discussion.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and Director Battle, thank you for the opportunity to share the Charter Office Review Team's report on the amended New Start application for Tennessee Nature Academy. On April the 26th, 2022, the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Education voted to deny the New Start application for Tennessee Nature Academy, a proposed 512 school with an enrollment cap of 684 students. On July 12, 2022, the vote for this application was tabled for further review. TCA 49-13-1083B states, upon receipt of the grounds for denial, the sponsor has 30 days from receipt to submit an amended application to correct the deficiencies. The local Board of Education has 60 days from receipt of an amended application to deny or to approve the amended application. The board has the following voting options for the application received. Approve or deny the New Start amended application for Tennessee Nature Academy. A denial on any New Start amended application can be appealed to the Charter Commission within 10 calendar days. Tennessee Nature Academy is proposing a 512 school with an enrollment cap of 684 students in the southeast area of Davidson County. I will highlight a few of the evidence findings listed within the board report and included on the chart. In academics, the amended application did include examples of co-planning and co-teaching. However, there was no evidence to support intensive intervention support to meet students' needs, which would limit access and support to the diverse student populations. While the applicant indicated on page 13 of the amended application that they would address the need in the southeast area of middle and high school capacity approaching or exceeding 100%, based on the K-5, 6A structure of MNPS Reimagined, the projections show there is no issue of overcrowding in the Antioch and Cane Ridge clusters. In operations, student-to-teacher ratios continue to be out of compliance at 27, exceeding the class size average of 25, maximum required by state law TCA 49-1-104. Additionally, TNA's unique structure raises challenges related to accessibility for students, which would limit for students with disabilities who make up 13.25% of MNPS students, which would limit access to TNA's school choice option for this population of students. In financials, the startup budget did not include any rental costs for facilities, the pre-opening budget did not include funds for tenant improvements, and the 8-year budget includes only $120,000 allocation for a single outdoor classroom. This equates roughly to $2,500 per year to support a single classroom in which this application's focus of learning through, with, and from nature. Overall, the budget is not adequate and lacks depth in supporting the fulfillment of the applicant's vision and mission. Lastly, in past performance, the applicant is considered a Category 1, and this section was not reviewed or rated by review team members. Before proceeding and presenting the review team's final ratings, I'd like to acknowledge that responses to Tennessee Nature's Academy claims were provided to board members, and all ratings were substantiated. Without hesitation and adhering to the process, the review team determined the rating in academics, operations, financials, and past performance for Tennessee Nature Academy as follows. In academics, partially meets standard. In operations, partially meets standard. In financials, does not meet the standard. And for past performance, this section was not rated by the review team due to the applicant being a Category 1. I will turn it over to the board for the discussion and vote for the New Start amended application for Tennessee Nature Academy.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I just have a question before we get started, just as we came out of Metro Legal, and I think I've been talking to you, Mr. Marsh, the email that was forwarded to us, do you have a response for that?
Mr. Little, I believe you're talking about an email that you received saying that the date on one of the notices was wrong. Yes, we looked at the notice itself, which just does say July 25th, 2022 at the top. The body also has July 25th, 2022. So there's just one section where it says May 25th, 2022. Additionally, the meeting has been noticed online on the school's website, on the calendar.
Thank you. Back to my original question, do we have a motion on the floor?
I move that we decline this application. On the grounds that it doesn't meet the standards as set forth by the state of Tennessee Charter School Office.
Okay. And we have a second. Any discussion? Ms. Bush?
So, Sharika, let me ask you, I know that, did you all receive the information that was sent by Mr. Renfro as far as you all got that, right, as far as their discrepancies about what was reviewed in the charter application? So they had a rebuttal to it because they're saying all the information that was asked in the amended application was there. Did you get a chance to look at that information?
We responded to the document that was provided on their website regarding the concerns within the board report.
And so what I was expecting to happen today was that we would be able to see both of what the charter office the amended application with your team's response versus what they had in the application. So I'm just a little confused why we still have pretty much the same outcome and still not any type of answers to the information that was submitted.
Ms. Robin-Grant, I'm happy to respond. Because this presentation is standard, we use the same exact rubric and review process for every amendment and new application we received. All board members did receive responses from the Charter School Office in advance of this meeting in response to some of the claims that were provided with factual information, with references to the rubric and to the amended application itself. So board members did receive a response to that information ahead of this board meeting.
I didn't receive anything, so that's the reason why I'm asking the questions. I didn't receive it. I didn't receive it. I don't know if y'all received it. So my biggest concern is that I'm still uncomfortable with this process because the review team, as is stated, said that what you just gave us, which was pretty much limited information based on the information that we received as a board versus their arguments that this information was incorporated into their amended document, and yet we're still not able to come up with a good decision to say, maybe you all got it wrong because we don't know. Their argument is that the information that was supposed to be presented or recommended by the office, they had it in there, so they made reference to that. So it's hard for me to just believe right now at its current state because of what I've seen.
Our office did respond to the one-pager that they provided to the board. We responded with references from the application as well as the rubric that's utilized to determine the ratings.
So it wasn't a one-pager. What one-pager are you speaking of?
The document that Tennessee Nature provided to the board, it may have been...
No, not that. They also had, you all should have, David had sent the board last week information that you all should have received as far as their rebuttal to the amended application. Did everyone receive it? Yep. Okay, so, but it was more than one page. It was not a one-pager. They really took a deep dive into the application and also provided information and also sectioned it, made sure that page number, everything was spelled out as far as their rebuttal.
Okay. Ms. Masters and then Mr. Little.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I, too, am uncomfortable with this process. And it was a process created by the state of Tennessee in which we are then charged with our charter school office going through these applications and based on those standards advising us on whether or not all the standards have been met. I absolutely trust that Ms. Roby Grant and all of the others involved with the process follow it correctly and do the follow through. And I recognize it may be one of the most thankless jobs in MNPS, but it is necessary, and I'm appreciative of that work. Because then we as a board are able to look at the report and see the areas where it is lacking and where it is not. And then beyond that, in my mind, if a charter school application doesn't meet the standards as set forth by the state of Tennessee, that's 99% of the battle for me as far as determining how to vote on this. Beyond that, I try to look at whether or not it it's planning to operate along the lines of why charter schools were initially created, to be innovative, to create replicable models that can eventually be used to the benefit of all of our students. And then I look at, are they planning to operate within the structure of Metro Nashville Public Schools and to be a collaborative and meaningful partner in all of our work? And I could offer examples of charter schools existing within MNPS who are doing just that. At this point, believe it or not, I don't have only negative things to say about our charter schools. I could also offer examples of some that are not doing that. I too read all of the information and read the appeal from Tennessee Nature Academy, and I still have come to the conclusion that it does not meet the standards. Is it a unique, even innovative idea? Sure. I mean, does it have a lot of really excited people coming to us, asking us to approve it? Absolutely. Yes, it does. Is it my job to allow my head to be turned by those appeals? It's not. It is to look at the full scope of information and determine whether or not it's appropriate for us to approve the charter. Not to just go, I think that's a really cool idea, and I'm going to say yes for that. So that is why, although I'm so appreciative of the enthusiasm and I like baby goats as much as the next person, I had to make the motion for us to deny this application.
Mr. Little?
I didn't have my hand up, but
I'm so sorry.
but it's okay. I just laughed.
Every time.
But just a quick question: if you're in here, if you're here for supporting Tennessee Nature Academy, just to get a good scope on support in the middle of the day, will you please stand up? Okay, thank you. If you are here against Tennessee Nature Academy and you're in the audience, please stand up. Okay, the only reason I wanted to say that because we also realize that as parents, that parents vote with their feet, they vote with their hearts, and if they didn't think Tennessee Nature Academy would serve their kids well, they wouldn't make these plans to dress up as a cow, come with goats, but also, you know, besides the theatrics, like give a really impassioned speech in response that you guys responded back to, but they wouldn't go through all of this if the parents didn't believe that this school would best serve their kids. And so the reason I supported the school at the last meeting was just that. Like, I watched them come forward. Mr. Renfro, who is usually very smiling, he's been frustrated, but it's all from hard work. I've heard the kids come up and speak about their siblings, and all of that just takes into an account. And so I'm here, someone that wants to support that. And if parents didn't support it, like some of our schools, they will leave with their feet. And so I just think we need to give them that opportunity.
Ms. Pupa-Walker?
I missed the last meeting, but I watched the meeting, so I'm going to try not to repeat any of the conversation from last time. But I do want to say a couple of things. This is the last time I'll get to vote on a charter application. And so certainly have expressed frustration before, my own particular frustration with this process. And one of those is, and I have served on that committee, I've chaired those committees. I know exactly what it entails. And the scrutiny is real, the pressure is real, the deliberation, the hard work is real. But there are times when we, and I feel like that is the case in this application, where we perhaps hold them to a standard that's not completely fair, or that's something that is misleading, I think, to board members sometimes. And one of those is the class size question. And so really what they're saying in their application is their average will be 27-1. Not every class will be. When I was a high school teacher, I had 150 students in a day. I was exceeding my class size if you took the overall. But I had classes with 20, I had classes with 35. And so that, I believe, is what they're suggesting overall, the average, right? But it looks as though what we're saying in this judgment on them is that every class will have 27 exceeding the class limit. And that's not how I read their language. And so as board members, we have to take at face value the information we receive, unless we're going to go and come to the office and go through the notebook or whatever the thing is. And that's true on any number of things on here. We don't have the luxury of interviewing the board of directors of this school, of interviewing the founder, of having a back and forth with the committee. The committee doesn't even come here, right? And so we've had multiple times where I've had serious questions about the way the decision was arrived at based on the application, and we don't get the opportunity to go deeper. We have to almost accept it up or down as it is. And that's hard for me because I have a lot of questions about the process. And sometimes it feels that there is a bias. The language can sound biased. That certainly was the way the language sounded on Aventura. And so do I think this is an innovative model? Do I think that's what charters were meant to do from the beginning? Absolutely. Do I think that my own son probably would have liked school had he been in this? This is a person who went yesterday on a creek hike. He's 26, right? Do I think that this is something we could all learn from? Probably. But I'm also frustrated that we don't have a shortage, like a demand in South Nashville, that there are open seats in South Nashville currently in our own schools, in existing charter schools. That is not part of our criteria today. We don't get to, if we said we're not going to approve it because we don't have a capacity problem, that doesn't matter. That's not part of the decision we get to make today. And for me, I remember back in the day when we really encouraged, like that was a major part of the criteria, asking folks to open in parts of Nashville where schools were overcrowded. That is not the case anymore. But that doesn't matter for the purposes of this application. And so I'm absolutely torn on this vote. And I feel like I just have a lot of mixed feelings about the process and about where we are and about this particular school. And so I'm hoping that we can, at some point, have the opportunity for board members to be more engaged in this process than just receiving information up or down, frankly. That's how I feel about it. I know that might be asking too much, and I also, the last thing I'll say is incredibly frustrated by the Charter Commission and the process with the Charter Commission, where really we're just a pit stop on the way now. We're not really a decider, and in a lot of ways, and that's really frustrating, really frustrating. And so, anyway, as we all know, this stuff is really complicated and super political, but I struggle with these decisions, and I think all of us do think really hard about this. I don't think people should make assumptions about where we stand as a board on any given decision. And so, anyway, thanks for indulging me.
Thank you, Dr. Gentry.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of pull a thread that she may not have intended to fray, but there's got to be a reason why questions around how can the charter move the district forward is not a part of the criteria. It's got to be a reason. And so I think that we've got to start to, and it's why I keep pushing for the bigger conversation. No, I can't ask whether the charter is solving a problem academically that I have. Is it solving a problem culturally that I have? Is it solving and addressing an issue of capacity for me? I can't ask those questions. I can't make a strategic decision about bringing in a charter. It's not a strategic decision. Yes, it is political. Yeah, it is. It's everything but how does it support the strategy and the mission of the district to provide high-quality opportunities for students? It's about everything but that. I have to assume that the model that comes before me is designed to do that with little or no evidence if the model is new, right? Little or no evidence that that's going to be the outcome, and then no requirement for whatever those strategies are to be packaged and sustainable and become a systemic part of what we're offering across the district as a whole. So it creates this whole us versus them, because we don't, I'm going to say we can never, because we could, but we don't have a platform or an expectation or a requirement that strategies that are effective within the charter system get piped into the district, the district overall, leveraged, expanded. There should be funding from the state for that. If this charter model means that much to you and you believe that much in the charter model, then that should be a part of what happens as a result of that charter existing within the district. So again, I've apologized 1,000 times over 12, 14 years for this, but the model as it exists today is, this is a vendor that has come to us and saying, we can provide a service to you to address a need. But the need is determined by them. It's not determined by us. So, it's like it's also, I'll leave it there.
Anyone else? My addition to discussion is back to probably the original conversation that I held when we had this meeting originally about Tennessee Nature. First, we did receive responses to this paperwork that was inside our director's report, on Friday, and I trust that my colleagues read that. We also received a number of follow-ups as requested from Dr. Sevier and the team on the entire application. As many of my colleagues know, I have been quite vocal on not liking the past experiences of how our applications have to work and how I feel like our hands are tied. And again, our rightful responsibility of local control is removed to a degree because of the way that the applications are created and the questions that are asked are frankly not asked in some situations. In this instance, I still say that we have the responsibility, like in all instances within our charter schools, to consider the broader picture, and I appreciate that some of those comments are inside of the paperwork to include that they don't follow, of course, our current model. But again, those seats are not needed in our area, and to some of my colleagues' point, that problem is not posed to us, or it is posed to us, not created by us. Additionally, it does not follow our current strategic needs, nor does it follow our current board policy of why we would have a charter school, as it does not help a certain group of students nor an area that needs those additional seats. So my concerns are, of course, what's inside of the application, as we have seen those results, and the follow-ups to the additional information that was provided. But I still think that is of us and our responsibility, as I have said before, fiscal responsibility and also strategic responsibility of seats needed. Is this needed or not inside of our school system? And does this follow the needs that we have and the strategic vision and strategic outcomes that we are expecting? Is this a replicable model that other schools can take on? And can we build a stronger MNPS through this option? So with that, if there's no further discussion, Ms. Bush?
So I want to look into the eyes of those young people out there. And I want to tell you, what did I tell you? I said, don't give up. If you know that you deserve a yes, then don't give up. Because after this board discussion and vote, if it doesn't happen in your favor, you still have a chance, okay? I just want y'all to know that. And I'm so proud of you for standing up and coming to this board meeting during the middle of the day when you all could be doing other things, right? So I'm proud of you. And I think what you're doing is so innovative. And this process, I still question. Okay? Because I know that there's so much more that we don't see behind this process. So I wanted to say that to you guys. As far as the number of seats, boy, y'all are irritating me because in Southeast Davidson County, it is the fastest growing area. If we're 87%, 90% trickling in middle schools right now, with enrollment still going up, and then we're pretty much at almost 100% in our high schools, about that 97, 99%. So we keep talking about we don't need seats because that's what we keep harping on. That's the excuse, and that's pretty much the way out. We don't need these seats. Well, we are going to need these seats. Next year, with Southeast Davidson County on a rise the way it is right now, I live there, and so I'm so offended that those of you who don't live in my community don't see the growth. I have 15,000 apartment homes over here. I have 20,000 apartment homes over here. Right down the road from me, they just cleared another 186 units on a very small acres of land. We got lots and lots of growth that's going on out there. And more of our kids are coming down to the bus stops from apartment homes. That's what's happening. So until you live in my community, then you can speak about my community, but I know exactly what the growth is. I have right now a parent who wants to live, that attends my child care academy, who wants to stay in Antioch and cannot stay in Antioch. You know where she got to go? You know where her family got to go? And they live in apartments. They have to go to Clarksville. That's where they got approved to buy a house from, because there was nothing around our area right now as far as single-family homes. So stop telling me what's going on in Southeast Davidson County, because I know exactly what the growth is. So I just wanted to make sure that I made that very, very clear about the number of seats that may or may not be needed. I know next year, this tone will be totally different, and this conversation will be totally different as far as the growth in Southeast Davidson County. So I want to make that another point, because we did it last time. Until you live in my area, and then until you can confirm that, then please, let's take a pause on that. Thank you.
I just have one more question. Sure. And like taking Sundays to read the director's report, some good information comes in there, but one of the things that I enjoy with Tennessee Nature Academy is the response, because I read the review committee's findings and I took that for truth, and then I read TNA's response and I took that for truth. So my question, were they sent the response, the substantiated response that was sent to us? Dr. Battle?
No.
Okay.
That was a response.
Said that they were. They did send it.
Did we send this?
To TNA.
Go ahead.
Yes, we replied to their reply that was sent to board members.
But was your response to substantiate the findings, was it sent to them? Because the way I read it, when I read the original reviews committee, I mean, it made sense. When I saw their response, it made sense because they highlighted exactly where it went wrong. And then when I read on Sunday the review committee's response again to substantiate it, it made sense. And my question as we go through this process, whether it's a legal process, political process, did they have time to look at what you resubmitted in response to their response? Does that make sense? So they responded and you responded. And did they have a chance to look at what we were sent this past Friday?
Go ahead and respond, and then I'll.
We responded to the document that was provided to board members.
Okay.
We responded referencing the application and tying it back to the rubric that was utilized to provide the ratings for each section. And then we submitted that information to be provided to the board.
So they received the original findings from the amended application.
Yes, ma'am.
We have an obligation to stick to the process. That is not the process. Our obligation to the board was based upon the questions that you sent us. We have since responded. So we did receive your questions about the information that was submitted by TNA. It is our obligation to respond to the board. Otherwise, when you are hearing the updates from the charter office, it is our obligation to use the exact same process every time we review an application. Yep. So that's why you have a difference in what's landed where. But every applicant receives the initial findings from the director's office and from the director of charter schools office and from the review team.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Ms. Bush?
So I'm a little confused. So was this a private correspondence to the board and not to give a response back to the charter?
Our response was to the board. That is who we report to, is to the Board of Education. So that's who we
And so
responded to.
that's a regular process. So no response goes back out to the
Because
charter.
that's not the formal process.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just asking a question.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So then, is it supposed to be on the agenda also? The response supposed to be on the agenda?
Which response?
In the original response.
I mean, to make it an open correspondence.
No, that's not a requirement of this process.
Just trying to understand. But so just make it clear, you don't send anything back. So I heard you say you responded to the one-pager back to the charter, but you didn't send them anything.
I didn't respond to the
You didn't
charter,
respond to them.
to the
Okay.
board.
Okay, I just wanted to make it
The
clear.
next response to the applicant will be the decision rendered from this Board of Education.
Correct.
That is our process. That is the process that we did not establish, but we follow by the state board.
I just want to make sure I had that on record. Okay, thank you.
In response to the seats that are needed, I see that Mr. Latimer is here, but I will direct my question to you, Dr. Battle. Are there current seats needed inside this district? I live close to this district. I, of course, part of my district overlaps in Southeast Nashville. Do we have actual data and showings of what is our current head count in those schools and future head counts, whether it's needed or not needed?
Yes, ma'am, we do. Ron, you can approach the podium. I believe those percentages regarding utilization was also shared at the last board meeting, but if you can just recap briefly, Ron, we'd appreciate it.
Hi. Yes, so we haven't updated any of the information. It was in the percentages were given last time, and they were in the 80s for the elementary schools. The middle schools were a little bit above that, but we've still got to transition the 5th grade out there, so especially at Marshall, we'll have a lot more space come available once we're able to do that.
Got it. Okay.
There are other schools growing out there. This year, Ventura will start as a K-1, grow to a K-8. Nashville Collegiate Prep is only a K-5. They're going to grow to a K-8. And in 23-24, KIPP will open their high school. So there are more seats coming online than just what's in the MNPS umbrella.
Correct. Okay, that's how I understood it as well. And that we review not just our current data points, but also future data points with the city's data, development, upcoming, and future land usage. Is this correct?
That's correct.
Okay. My concern, of course, with seats is that I know that we've also had some issues inside the Southeast district within the current middle school that we have had approved for it to be an MNPS school, that some of that is it's maybe not as likely because of the additional seats that are already inside that district. So to me, that's just additional proof that we don't need a bunch of additional seats, that those already exist, whether it's through our current already approved charters or through the schools that exist. So that's where I'm coming up with my head count and seat needs. Of course, that also keeps in mind the 2 additional MNPS elementary schools that are inside District 2. And there's a lot, again, overlap in that Southeast Nashville area, as Marshall's going to be one of my schools at this new redistricting, and we have a lot of overlap in the Antioch area between myself and Ms. Bush, and at times Ms. Player-Peters as well. So I appreciate that data to make sure that it's not just anecdotal, but true evidence based on the head counts and seats that are needed. Ms. Masters, will you please repeat, thank you so much, your motion?
I move that we deny this application based on the grounds that it does not meet the standards as set forth by the State Charter Commission. Yep, that's it.
Okay. We will vote by a show of hands. If you vote in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Vote to deny. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you vote as an oppose, please raise your hand as a show of hands. 3, 4, with no abstentions. Motion passes. Okay. May we see the agenda for the next stop to make sure that everyone's aware of the next and last piece of our agenda. Thank you so much for everyone's hard work on that and for TNA's advocacy and being here. All right, next we have a resolution that's in front of my colleagues. It's up on, can we put it up on the, it's page, in case people want to read along, I believe it's page 8 on this. Let's see, I will wait for it to be up.
Page 10.
Page 10, thank you so much. While we're finding that, we have a resolution here in support of public school teachers. That, of course, was in our application and our agenda forms, which we got as of last week. All right, thank you. Before I read it, do I need to have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Read it first? You gotta read
Can I read it first, or do I have to have a
I don't know where you
motion?
moving to approve something. Somebody may not know what we're talking about.
Just to read it, I'm not sure that
Yeah,
you
you
need
don't need a motion to read it.
any motion, but
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I could read it and it was not anything wrong.
yeah, if the board's taking any action on it, there would need to be a motion.
Then I will read it and then have an approval or denial motion. All right, so I will read it as I am sponsoring. It's the resolution in support of public school teachers, and of course, if you want to follow along, you may. Whereas the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Education is responsible for managing all public schools established or that may be established under its jurisdiction, and whereas a key component to the success of Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools is the hardworking and dedicated teaching faculty in our schools. And whereas teachers in both our district and our state complete rigorous training and testing in order to become certified, and whereas teachers continue their own education and hone their skills through ongoing professional development that is tied to their daily work, and whereas when coupled with a high-quality core instructional program and parent, student, educator, and community voices, teachers are a vehicle for both individual and school transformation that can help close the persistent and destructive opportunity gaps in our schools and reverse the growing inequity in our society. And whereas teachers in public schools deserve the respect and admiration of the students, parents, and the community as a whole for the unceasing work that they do to make our communities better for all. And whereas Governor Bill Lee has been working with Dr. Larry Arnn, president of Hillsdale College, to open up to 100 publicly funded private charter schools in our state, and whereas Dr. Larry Arnn has recently made public remarks disparaging both the training and intelligence of teachers in traditional public schools, and whereas Dr. Arnn has referred to public education as both, quote, enslavement and, quote, like the plague, and that it, quote, destroys generations of people, and whereas these statements and similar inflammatory language promotes untruths about educators and creates division within our communities, and whereas Governor Lee refuses to condemn these remarks and continue to work with Dr. Arnn in his plans to undermine the work of educators across our state. Therefore, be it resolved, the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Public Education recognizes the tremendous impact of teachers in our schools and the community at large. Furthermore, the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Public Education denounces the remarks made by Dr. Arnn that are critical of teachers and their profession and calls upon Governor Bill Lee to do the same. Furthermore, the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Education calls upon Governor Lee to sever ties with Dr. Arnn, Hillsdale College, and any associated or similar programs that attempt to discredit teachers and propagate untruths about our public schools. And furthermore, the Metropolitan Nashville Board of Education promises to work diligently for public school teachers and fight against both people and forces that work to demean and undermine them and their important work. Adopted by the elected Metropolitan Nashville Board of Education meeting in a special called session on the 25th of July, 2022, with this resolution to take immediate effect, the public welfare requiring it. May I have a motion on this resolution?
I move to adopt.
Second. Thank you. Is there any discussion about this resolution? Okay. I appreciate the work that was done, both by our staff and for feedback on this resolution. We hope that our teachers recognize that they are vital to the improvement of not only our current schools, but future schools, and that they are a vital part of our communities and an integral part of the quilt that makes our communities safer and better for not just now, but in the future. So with that, by a vote of show of hands, if you are in favor, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. So we have none to oppose. Thank you so much. All right, be there no further business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.